Thank you.
Buongiorno tutti. And good morning, everybody. I have to find my, okay, excuse me. Oops. Here it is. I have a middle name, which is much easier than Guðbjörg. It's Gugga, and I put it up there, so you might remember that. So I would like to thank Maria Eduarda very much for inviting me to this symposium. And it's been a pleasure to be at this conference. It's a great conference, and I congratulate the organizers very much. And it's my pleasure to tell you today about my research that I conducted in a national sample on career adaptability in Iceland. And this is the first time that I present all the steps of this study that I've been conducting for the last 5 years. And so my focus here today will be on context. First, I will talk about the context of this study, which is quite spectacular, at least from my point of view. Then a short presentation of Savekis' theory. I think I can go fast over that one because you did it so well, Mary. Thank you. And then to the development of the instrument, of the career adaptability instrument in the Icelandic context. And then to the results of the national sample, and then some speculations about some contextual variables or social variables that we added to the administration of this new Icelandic instrument to the national sample. So to the context of the study, then we met this live design group that have been adapting the career adaptability instruments in about 18 countries, I think, simultaneously. We met in 2008, in July. So when I got back home, I applied for a grant in September of 2008, and the first sentence in the application is, in this month of September 2008, when the global work market is in a major crisis, we are all too well reminded of how unpredictable changes can be in workplaces and how important it is for individuals to deal with those changes. This is what we're talking about all the time. But little did I know that 2 weeks later, the 3 banks the whole economic system in Iceland collapsed, and this just reminds us how quick these changes can be and how really unpredictable they are. And so that was sort of the context of this study from my point of view, and it's a good example of what we're dealing with in career adaptability. We are facing career shifts, career quakes, as Watts calls them, that are created, and whole sectors, whole work organizations with a lot of people within them collapse and change completely within a short time. And we know that the big causes for these quakes are globalization, new technologies, and bad management. And the individuals that are caught in situations like this need to adapt, or else fall into the crevices created by these fundamental changes. So to come back to my story, then I got the grant, and I completed the research project a few months ago. So you will be the first to hear about the all of the steps, like I said. Now, to come to Savekis' theory, then counselors listen to storylines of vocational personality type, to life theme, and to career adaptability. And until those 2 or 3 years ago, we only had instruments for vocational personality type and life theme, and not for career adaptability. But that meeting in Berlin in 2008, and many of you who are here were there as well, sort of was the first step to make a new instrument. And as I said, it was an international approach, so it was done simultaneously in many countries. Now to come to the concept of career adaptability, so we know it's a psychological construct. That's important. That denotes an individual's readiness and resources for coping with current and anticipated tasks of vocational development, and the adaptive fitness of attitudes, beliefs, and competencies, the ABCs of career construction, increase along the developmental lines of concern, control, curiosity, and confidence. So we have these developmental lines that you were detecting in your interviews. And it's also the attitudes, competencies, and behaviors that individuals use in fitting themselves to work that suits them. Viewing career construction as a series of attempts to implement a self-concept focuses attention on the sequence of matching decisions. So accordingly, career construction theory focuses on neither the person nor the environment in the famous P-E symbol. Instead, it focuses on the dash. And that's also, I think, important, at least for the results we saw in Iceland. So to come to the adaptation of the CAAS, the Career Adaptability Scale International, to the Icelandic context, then our first step was, of course, to do a translation of the international 24-item instrument and do a validity study of that. Then we developed culture-specific or EMIC items to reflect career adaptability in Iceland. And the way we did that was to work with focus groups of specialists and, of course, inform them about Savickas' theory on career adaptability, but also discuss with them how people in Iceland cope with adapting their careers. And so that was in a few words, the method we used. And then after that, we had an instrument with a total of 67 items, and including the 24 items. And we did a validity study of that instrument as well. That we administered in a large national sample of 1,575 people or participants. And just to remind you of the scale of the whole population in Iceland is 320,000 people, so it's a large sample, and finally, on the basis of that, we selected 36 items, so it's 24 international items, and then 12 items for the two scales, the two additional scales that we developed in Iceland. And we published a handbook. So here are the 4 scales that are based on the theory of career adaptability or career construction. I won't go. I think you know by now what the 4 scales are about. So just to remind you that the concern scale involves the tendency to consider life within a time perspective, anchored in hope and optimism. The control scale or dimension rests on the conviction that it is an advantage for people to exert influence and control in their environment. Sort of the control aspect, and curiosity is the exploration dimension, and confidence the sort of to self-efficacy, to believe in yourself, and we added to those. So we had 2 C's in addition, which are cooperation and then citizenship, or more precisely, social concern. So to look better at the Icelandic scales, then it's cooperation is simply to cooperate and share with others. This was something that came up in the discussions in the focus groups. And then social concern or citizenship. And I will dwell a bit on that one, which it has to do with a felt need out there in you know, to feel that there's a need out there in society and wanting to do something about it, and want to improve something in your community. And I can resonate myself with this dimension, because 25 years ago there were no counselors in Iceland, and I felt that need, and I wanted to sort of build up the counselor profession in my country, and that's really been sort of my personal promotion in my career. So, and just to give an example of the items in this on this scale, it's willing to contribute to society, be active in society, be diligent, want to achieve well, etc. But the two Icelandic scales, of course, need more research. I mean, we need to do research on discriminant validity, on convergent validity, and to see if what we're measuring is, in fact, another construct. But that remains to be seen. But why does this social concern scale or citizenship scale come up? It might be related to the fact that we live in a welfare state. I don't know. I mean, this is something we need to look into. But in the welfare states, you know, it's been in studies on cultural values, it's been shown that that individualistic values prevail. Power distance is generally small. There is a strong tendency to avoid uncertainties, and these countries, the Nordic countries, of which Iceland is one of the 5 Nordic countries, there is it's been researched that feminine values dominate in these 5 Nordic countries. So this is something that we just need to look into. I mean, is it another construct? Is it in fact something that is part of career adaptability? So to come to the national sample, originally it was of 2,772 people aged 15 to 65. So 57% answered, and we had 67 items, which was a large item pool, but and that's perhaps why we lost quite a bit of people. And then men 46%, women 54%, and the data was collected in 2011. And to come to some psychometric properties of the Icelandic career adaptability scale, which is called CANS, K-A-N-S in Icelandic. So it demonstrates a very good reliability, and the results of a confirmatory factor analysis for this 36-item version of the scale show that the data fit the theoretical model well. We have fit indices like RMSEA of 0.055 and indicating a good model fit. And it's in fact a much better model fit than we saw in a study that we published on the basis of the 2 validity studies we did, and was published in the Journal of Vocational Behavior a year ago. So we're improving the instrument as we go along in the development of the instrument. So, okay. So to the national sample and the small study we did along with it, and a few questions on context and social variables. So our hypotheses are that career adaptability is contextual, not developmental. When changes are on the horizon, scores on the Icelandic career adaptability scales are higher. That was one of our hypotheses. A second hypothesis was that age differences in career adaptability scores are due to context differences. And then the third one was that career adaptability is contingent on social variables such as gender. So to look at the results, some results. Then this question was about if you see career changes ahead or not. So here you can see we are looking at context, since scores on career adaptability are higher when changes lie ahead, with one exception. Those that expect changes in the years to come are significantly higher on concern, curiosity, cooperation, and citizenship, and on the total score, but they're lower on control. Here we have the career adaptability in different age groups. So we have in the sample of 1,575 people. You have, can you see that you have concern on the left and so forth? You can see it? Yeah, okay. And you have the youngest age group on the left and onwards. So career adaptability is linked to developmental tasks in Savickas' theory, and some differences in age were detected in this study. So the youngest age group on the left of each cluster is higher on concern. There is a future orientation. You have to prepare for what's coming. And curiosity, the exploration dimension. So that's, it makes sense. And older age groups are higher on control. They're more decisive. They have more experience. And those certainly can reflect developmental tasks as the theory predicts. There are slight differences in confidence where the older groups are higher. All the same, it cannot be said from these results that career adaptability takes place in a gradual age-related development. It is more likely that this reflects a context with developmental tasks or tasks that need to be resolved at certain ages, with younger people being concerned and curious and older people more in control when adapting to careers. Now, as you can see, then the Icelandic scales of cooperation and citizenship are quite high. They're higher than the others. And this is something that we need to look into. Are we sort of measuring other things? So again, we don't know. We need other kinds of studies to answer that question. We detected also differences, significant differences between men and women. Women are significantly higher than men on concern, cooperation, and citizenship, the two Icelandic scales. And again, I'm wondering if the fact that the specialists in our focus groups were all women is having an effect here, or what? And or is it the fact that women juggle more with work and family? I don't know. This is something that needs to be looked into. We also looked at differences on education and place of living, and there were no differences in career adaptability there. Here is another study conducted by a student of ours and my colleague, Siv Einarsdóttir. And here they as you can see, this is a different study where unemployed people, a sample of 233 people, scored the Icelandic career adaptability scale was administered to this group of unemployed people. That's the blue columns. And as you can see, they score much lower on all of the scales, which again tells us that we're talking about some contextual sort of it's the context sort of that leads them into this sort of depressed situation. Now, just for my last slide on a discussion, results point to an adaptation to the environment as Savickas' theory predicts. with the contextual aspects of career adaptability. And we saw that people that foresee changes in their careers in the next 5 years score higher on this instrument. Women as well score higher, and unemployed people score lower on all 6 scales. Age group matters, we've seen that. There are those developmental aspects or the developmental tasks can be seen in those measurements. Now, the citizenship or social contribution is an important dimension and might be an important dimension to add to the conceptualization of career adaptability because it captures the interaction of the individual with the social environment. But we have here a powerful intervention within the framework of life design, where people can be helped in mapping their career adaptability, and in our counseling interventions, we can work with that on the basis of these measures. So I think I'll just say thank you or tack. Grazie. Thank you very much.